Hi, everyone. Welcome to Around the Ladder. I'm Erica Steinberg, and this is the podcast about career paths that don't follow the usual script. We've all heard about climbing the corporate ladder, but careers often zigzag, they stall, they take unexpected turns. If your journey hasn't been a straight climb, you're in the right place. I love the idea of going around the ladder and finding a path that fits who you really are. So, on this show, I get to speak with people who have taken unconventional routes by choice or by chance, and they found success on their own terms. My guest today is Beth Wanner, an accomplished marketing exec turned founder and culture champion who's on a mission to make the workplace actually work for parents. Imagine that. After climbing the corporate ladder and navigating a brutal journey to motherhood that included infertility, job loss, and pregnancy discrimination, Beth decided she wasn't going to get mad. She was going to do something about it. And that something is Mother Cover, the first of its kind agency devoted to covering parental leave and other temporary absences with seasoned interim and fractional talent. It's a win-win. Employees get to step away without sacrificing their careers, and companies get continuity, leadership, and a culture that retains top talent instead of burning it out. Beth brings passion, strategy, and a serious dose of real talk to the future of work conversation, and I cannot wait for you to hear her story. Beth, I'm so glad that you're here. It's been a while since we first met, so I'm glad to finally have you on here.
Yes, I'm so excited to be on and to get to speak to you again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, I do want to talk about Mother Cover, but let's talk about your career before Mother Cover because that really set the stage for founding this new type of work. You spent about 15 years in marketing and leadership roles in various sectors, tech, supply chains. How did you get into that?
I always loved marketing. I loved the creative side and the strategic side of marketing, being able to balance kind of both right and left brain and how to tie that to strategic outcomes of a company. So it was always about how do I build and align marketing teams to drive pipeline and revenue and really contribute to the strategy and the growth of companies, but at the same time, marketing, when you're doing it right, is both art and science.
Yes.
It's being able to flex that creative muscle as well. So I really just I gravitated towards that even right out of high school. That's what I went into university to study was marketing as well as international business, and then just dove right in from there. So that's where I thought I was going to spend my entire career.
Yeah, and you spent a good portion of it there. And I realize now I'm skipping around a little bit, or really I'm skipping over a whole chunk of time here, but I do want to get to this because this really spoke to me. You decided to start a family and you went through some things that will sound all too familiar to plenty of other people. So I would like you to share that story.
Yeah, so in my career, spending I was probably at least 10 years into it at this point, and I was very fortunate to have an upward trajectory in my career. I was moving from senior IC roles to manager to director to eventually
You were
VP.
climbing that ladder.
Yes, yeah, and I had held several executive positions, helping to build and run those companies, typically in tech or supply chain, as you said, in fast-moving companies. So I was nervous at that point of how does a family fit into this? And I wasn't really thinking of blatant discrimination. I was thinking of these are fast-moving companies. What is any time away going to mean for my career? What are some unconscious signals and biases that still exist for particularly for women to be able to grow their families and pursue demanding careers at the same time? So I was always trying to figure out when is the right time, as most people
There's never
do,
a right
discovered
time.
there is no right time. So that's what we were like, okay, we're just going to go for it and we're going to figure it out as we go. But unfortunately, it wasn't that simple. My husband and I faced infertility. So years of going through that, eventually going through IVF. And at the same time, there's a rise in layoffs in the tech sector that particularly hit marketing and sales teams. I think I would have felt like I needed to keep it close to my chest anyway, but I felt that pressure even more so with the market environment that was going on. So I knew I needed to keep that separate from my career. So I did not tell anybody that I worked with that I was going through this, that I was trying to pursue a family, that I was carrying something really heavy going on in the background, and I put more pressure on myself to overperform. Make sure you're hitting your targets. Make sure nobody sees kind of any of the cracks. You don't want to put that target on your back when there are layoffs or other kind of decisions going around that. Well, maybe she's not going to be here anyway. She wants to start her family. Her priorities are going to shift. She's going to take time away, any of that. So I kept that close to my chest. It was heartbreaking. It was the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. And thankfully, I eventually did get pregnant. My second IVF transfer worked. And then the way that the world has a funny way of shaking out, 2 days later, I got laid off anyway. Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes. I thought, how could this be how the world is unfolding for me? Finally getting through this, making the decisions to hold this to myself so I don't get laid
Yeah.
off, overperforming. So we were hitting our targets. I was not in any realm thinking that I'm in jeopardy to lose my job. And then it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And the story continues
The story
because
continues.
yes,
Yes.
you have a
So
beautiful
because,
baby, a
yeah,
beautiful, not so much a baby anymore.
not so much a baby anymore, but because I had gotten pregnant through IVF, you find out you're pregnant right away. So I'm like 4 weeks pregnant when I'm fired, and I need to find a new job. I'm the breadwinner of my family. And because as I was nervous about how much time even taking
Mhm.
maternity leave would mean, I can't just stop working at this point. That's even longer of a career gap. How do I get back to work after that?
Yeah.
So I start the job search, and I am pregnant, obviously, at that time. It takes several months. I'm able to get another VP of marketing job at another tech company. I sign the offer. I tell them I'm pregnant, and they are absolutely not happy about it. Which I know I don't. I'm not naive to
Yeah.
what that would feel like on the other side of you've just gone through this extensive search, you've hired your first female VP. It's not something that you're going to jump up and down about and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is amazing." But I wasn't expecting a congratulations, but I was still expecting support and how are we going to figure this out and create a plan together because we were looking at the long term of this is a
Yeah.
great partnership. What we were talking about was building this company for the long term, that this was just going to be a blip in the road, and we were going to get through it and be stronger and have a great story to tell on the other side of it. That's not how it worked out. I did start working there, but I ended up getting fired at 8 months pregnant.
Oh my God.
And once again, not in a million years did I think that that was the path that my career life was going to take.
Yeah.
Uh, no chance at getting a job then at that point. I had also just received news from my doctor that I had a complication that required a planned C-section
Mhm.
5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks early. So I had to go on leave even
Even earlier.
earlier. And then right after sharing that was when I lost my job.
Yeah.
Again.
You'd think that there would be. My mother was telling me stories about when she and my father split up when my brother and I were very young, and she couldn't get a credit card without my father or her father signing something. She would go on all these job interviews, and people would say, "Oh, well, you have children, and so who's going to take care of your kids? So we're not going to hire you." And even flash forward in my own career, there have been times when I was interviewing and interviewed other people where I wouldn't wear a wedding band. The women I was interviewing wouldn't wear a wedding band. One woman who I worked with came in, wasn't wearing a wedding band, didn't mention anything about her husband, about her son, nothing because of that fear. And
Mhm.
still, from the 70s right up until the early 2000s and beyond, we still have this coming up. And it amazes me. It really amazes me.
It, Same. When I actually first started in my first job in tech, I was newly engaged, and my mother had said to me as I was going to that interview, "Don't wear your engagement ring."
Yeah.
And it didn't really resonate with me. Of like, why? What? I wouldn't want to work for this company if they care that I'm newly engaged and then they think that I'm instantly getting pregnant, starting a family. Why is that an issue? And I was just so naive at that point in my career of what still exists and whether, again, it's spoken or unspoken. I think there's a lot of these stories that we're just not hearing about anymore or at all. And I would say like that's because of the shame that we put on ourselves when we are victims
Yeah.
of discrimination. Um, and a lot of it even goes into gaslighting ourselves of, did that really happen to me or did I imagine that? Did this have to do with something else? And deep down, we know what this really
Yeah.
had to do with. But a lot of women have to sign severance agreements or NDAs or confidentiality agreements, and we don't talk about these things. It's just about how do I get through this and get to that next job because it's about our livelihoods and supporting our families.
Yeah. And you know what? And it's not even things that we just put on ourselves because even where I was working, where I did have two children and I came back after each maternity leave, just as devoted, if not even more devoted, actually, to my work because I didn't know how to raise a child, but I knew how to do my job. I was like, this whole raising a citizen of the world, that was all new to me. I had no experience in that, but legal marketing, I knew like the back of my hand. And
Yeah.
I found out that even after coming back twice and being just as devoted, working just as hard, if not harder, that there were some senior executives or one particular senior executive who said, well, is she really committed? Even
Yeah.
after that, I'm not sure she's really committed. So we could go on about that, but I do want to come to the solution, or one solution that you have found, and that is Mother Cover. So when you launched Mother Cover, tell me about your core mission? Like, what was the gap? We know in your words, like the gap that you felt needed fixing. And really, it's been a little bit of time. So how has it evolved since you first started? Also, I'm curious about.
Yeah. So back to kind of even how the idea for Mother Cover came about.
And I
So
love the name, by the way. I love
thank you.
the name.
Thank you very, very much. I actually, depending on when this airs, I did a post about it today that's talking about that Mother Cover is meant to both invoke the feelings of support, but it's a little bit cheeky and rebellion,
Just a little bit.
just a little cheeky.
Just the right
Um,
amount.
yeah, it has a little bit of the rage behind it
Yeah.
that inspired this, but is all about putting positivity now out into the world. But so after I had been fired, I shared my story on LinkedIn, and it was more for therapy for myself. But I ended up hearing from hundreds of other women and a few men as well too who experienced either the same level of blatant discrimination somewhere else along kind of the spectrum of it, unbiased or being, unconscious bias,
Mhm.
or being laid off during pregnancy, during maternity leave, or shortly after returning. And since I was now had time at home, my wheels just kept spinning. I'm like, why is this still a thing? In this day and age, why is this still a thing? Why are we fearful of people going on leave? Why are we making these assumptions? Why are we nervous that this is going to disrupt our businesses? It's such a normal thing, and we still treat it like it's a surprise every time. So I put back on kind of my hat as being an executive, and I knew from experience, even at supportive companies, when somebody shared that they were pregnant, you would say congratulations, and then the door would shut, and everybody would go, "Oh no." How do we handle this? What is this going to mean? And again, whether they're saying it out loud or not, they're like, "This is this. If you're the manager of it, this is extra work on your plate now to figure out a plan, to figure out the workload, to figure out how projects are going to keep going or which ones are going to stall." And I thought, if we can solve for that oh no moment, if we can show that this is business as usual and there is a proactive plan for this, and we can have individuals who are seasoned, who are professionals, who know how to step in
Mhm.
quickly and step out in the same way and be able to protect that person's job so it doesn't feel like a threat that they're coming in as a foot in the door that they might want to take that opportunity, but they're doing it specifically because this is the type of work that they do. And because in the market at the same time, with all these layoffs, there's been a rise in individuals who are interested in contract and fractional work, and whether they find themselves there out of circumstance, but now realize they love it because they also are parents that are looking for flexibility, a little bit more control, or they are individuals who are 20, 25, 30 years into their career and they're like, this is just kind of the stage that I'm at, and I've earned this flexibility and control. So the idea for a mother cover was how to marry those individuals who are looking for fractional contract work with companies that have these temporary leaves, create a whole system and model around it so it's easy to slot them in. It doesn't take the same um, amount of effort as if you were hiring somebody,
Yes.
especially if you're just covering, say, a 3 month leave. You don't have the time to be able
Mhm.
to recruit, vet, onboard, train somebody new, and then have them go again. So if we build seasoned professionals who this is exactly what they do, we can help again with that oh no moment for companies and show that there's a way to do this where they can do what most companies, I believe, truly want to do is support their valuable team member, let them focus on their family or an important moment in their life while protecting their career, protecting their spot on the team, but not having to sacrifice the momentum and performance of the company
Yeah.
as well too.
And
So we can
protect the
soften both.
integrity of the team also, because if you take that
Yeah.
person's work, especially now as maternity parental leaves really are getting longer. I only operate in the law firm world, but it used to be just 12 weeks in the US. And I know you're in Canada, so I don't know if I don't know if the timing is different, but
Oh, it is. Yeah.
yeah, so you could get longer, but even now in the US, I'm hearing about more firms offering 4 to 6 months. So for
Yeah.
12 weeks, yeah, everybody can kind of deal with it, and that's what we always did. There was no such market like this, and I offer a similar service in my business, but only for my business. You offer it far more broadly.
Yeah.
But it was, it protects the team also because I remembered like during those 12 weeks when other people would have to pick up this person's work, especially somebody in someone in a senior position, it was exhausting. Everybody was already at capacity. So if you have a sector where people are already getting laid off, so the people who are left are already probably overloaded, and then somebody has to be out on leave for a while, and it could be parental leave, it could be medical leave, it could, any sort of leave. That's just putting so much more on the team itself as well. So it's like this triple win.
Yes, and that's exactly what we're seeing with the companies that are reaching out to us is that this for a lot of them this is the first time that they've had an external interim or backfill come in and they have typically just dispersed the work amongst the
Yeah.
existing team. And I think we're becoming more aware. There's lots of studies out there now that are talking about not just turnover for the parent or the person going on leave, but turnover for the team for that exact reason of burnout, resentment, and that's only increasing now as everybody has these leaner teams. Individuals are already at 115%. They don't have the
Yeah.
capacity to take on even a portion of somebody else's work, even for 12 weeks. But like you said, we are seeing those leaves get longer and longer. We have filled 12 weeks, 12-week leaves, but we're more commonly seeing 16, 20, and
Yes.
up now. And I hope that that keeps getting further and further. In Canada, it's 12 to 18 months. But at the same time, that just increases the fear of what does this mean for my career if I'm
Yeah.
gone for that long? Will I be forgotten? Will I be replaced? So policy can does go a long way. We need longer protected leave. We need paid leave. Those are all vitally important, but it doesn't fix culture. It doesn't fix practice. And that's where Mother Cover is really trying to come in and help be a part of the solution.
Yeah. I would imagine you do a fair amount of education also when you're meeting with clients and prospects. So, what are some common fears or objections that you hear from companies about working with you or about having somebody that might say, like, well, about having essentially a stranger come in and be part of their team for a while and then leave? When you first explain the value proposition to them, what's the response?
Well, most of the companies that we've worked for so far have come inbound to us, so they're already
They're already on board.
they're already kind of in market and realizing that they need some sort of solution to it. But sometimes what we do a bit of educating around is it's not the same sort of recruitment process like you are going to hire an
Yeah.
employee. So the way that we are structured, so we have a roster of what I call leave partners. And our lead partners are individuals that are at least 10 years into their career. I think last time I ran the numbers, we actually averaged probably closer to 15 years of experience or more. Um, but you want somebody more experienced than
Yeah.
necessarily the role requires. So even if you have a senior IC role and maybe they require, if you were posting that job, 5 to 7 years of experience, we still want to put somebody who has that 10 plus years of experience because, again, it's a shorter term. You're not wanting to spend time training and onboarding them. You want somebody who's seasoned that knows how to hit the ground
They can
running.
just come right
Uh,
in. Yeah.
yes,
Like a
and
relief pitcher. I always turn to baseball, sports analogies. It's like getting a really good relief pitcher, and they can come right in and make a difference immediately.
yes, and then that's where we talk about the fractional model as well. So obviously, somebody who is more senior is more expensive, but when somebody can come in at 15 or 20 hours a week, and we do cover roles full time as well. So we have individuals who fill in full time and all the way down to a minimum of 10 hours a week. But when you have somebody more senior, they can move quickly, they can have a big impact, and they can fill a larger gap than if you're just measuring on those
Yeah.
hours alone. But that's how we can tailor and fit within a company's budget as well, because that would be something that often gets brought up if this is the first time that they're backfilling, is this isn't a budget item that they've thought of
Yeah.
before, especially if they are doing paid leave as well too, which we hope that they are, so the individual on leave is supported. But we can come up with a budget that fits their needs, gets them the right match of the skill sets. And then the other things that we talk about too is being able to have a little bit of wiggle room of like, again, if you were hiring exactly this role, this is what your ideal person would look like. They'd come from exactly my industry and have this experience. You don't necessarily need that because they're not filling a vacant role. They're not coming into something new. We have a handoff process where we get to learn about your industry, your company specifics, your processes, and all of that as we're onboarding. And then it's that technical discipline experience that you really benefit from. So yes, they're usually we fill a lot of leaves in the tech sector, but if you say I am a tech company that builds robotic dogs for senior companions, we probably don't have a leave partner that's done exactly that,
Yeah.
but we have a leave partner that can match your SaaS model. We have a leave partner that can match your culture and the level of kind of expertise that you need them to have. So sometimes it's a little bit about thinking differently about who's going to step in based on what this need actually is.
So I do want to pick up on something here because you just said that you're doing a lot of this kind of work with tech companies, and that's your background. So that doesn't surprise me at all. The part that does surprise me is the reputation, I should say, that tech companies still sometimes have, which is maybe, like being so fast moving and so hard charging that maybe not being as open to somebody going on leave, let alone somebody, a solution as different as yours. So how has that been? But yet that's your client base. So have they been more receptive than you thought, or maybe it's just me, being bringing my own biases to the forefront?
No, like I can say as somebody who's lived in and breathed a career in tech, I've seen the worst of the worst, but I've also seen the best of the best. And those are the people that I feel are finding us first, and we can prove this model out with them, show some case studies and show like why, again, this doesn't need to be something that's feared of somebody going on leave. So a lot of both the good and the bad exists within the tech sector, which is I'm sure true for every sector, is you can find the good actors and the bad actors, but
Yeah.
we're aligned to those who want to do better. They're just maybe not sure of how or haven't really thought about it, which is true for I'd say most companies. Again, when the national conversations have focused on paid leave, protected leave, but not necessarily the actual experience, how the work gets done, how to
Yeah.
operationalize some of these things. So most companies, I do believe, want to do better.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. And then I find myself thinking about the employee, the person who's going on leave, and that's got to be nerve-wracking for somebody, especially in a very fast-moving sector, and the relationship that they may have with the leave partner. I so doesn't apply, but I'm thinking of like, the midwife, the television.
Oh, maybe like that should
Fractional. And I'm
be
like, oh my
a term
goodness,
I coin of
so
like,
not like that, of
we're
course.
the midwife for your career baby.
Yes. But without the red cape and without all of the other stuff that came with
Yes,
it.
yes.
No. But so do those two, I would imagine that there is some time that the leave partner and the person going on leave are interacting because there's got to be some kind of handoff. And how does that, do things come up in, in just setting up that relationship? Like um, how do you prepare the leave partners for being that person who is stepping into somebody else's shoes for a period of time?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that we vet for upfront with those who are on our leave roster of it's we don't post publicly. It's not just anybody can join. There has to be a referral. It's usually from either our communities or our networks. Somebody's already vouching for them. Like I said, they're a minimum of 10 years into their career. They've typically done contract or interim work before, so they know how to step in. We already feel pretty confident in their skill set just because in the nature of who's reaching out and is interested in this type of work. But they always have a story and why they are connected, not just to, I want to step in and do interim or contract or fractional work, why specifically they want to step in for another human being, an important part in their life. So whether they had, most of them are parents, you don't have to be parents, but they have an experience of their own parental leave. In other words, either not great and they want to provide better to those who come after them, or it was good and they were like, I recognize that my experience is pretty rare,
Yeah.
and I want to help offer that to somebody else. So there's already a really big emotional connection to it for the person, for the people who work with us. And that's really important to me. But then on top of that, we have a leave partner manifesto that we share with them, or like, this is what it means to step in for somebody versus, again, a vacant role. We want to keep their name top of mind in the rooms that they're not in that moment. We want to make sure that it's their strategy that we're moving
Yes.
forward. We can still add to it. We're not just seat warmers, but we're doing it in a way that is respectful and additive to the person who is on leave. And it's also within our contracts that we cannot take that job.
Yeah.
So even unless the parent was or the person on leave decided for themselves that they are not returning, then we can extend that partnership and help the company, whether it's bridge until they find somebody full time, or if they want to offer the leave partner full time. But typically, it's this is the type of work that they want, and they're onto the next leave
Yeah.
after that. But there's a lot that we've built into specifically tailoring this around leave that I think is unique.
Yeah, yeah. So I do want to spend some time talking about your own career pivot because you went from being an employee to being the founder of a company. How has I don't know what was that shift like for you? Because that was a big part of this journey also. Your role has significantly changed.
Yeah, it was wild. I call myself an accidental entrepreneur because this was never.
So many of us are.
Yeah, I never imagined it. My husband is an entrepreneur, and he said several times throughout my career, like, you should just start your own thing. And I was like, no, that's for you. I need the steady paycheck. I need the health care, all those sort of things. You do the risky stuff. And I had tried for a long time. I just thought I was going to go back to work. But as I was doing these interviews, again, it's a very hard time in the market, but I just felt like something bigger has to come out of this. And then I probably was thinking about the idea for a mother cover for about a year, and then I started telling a little bit more people about it, and the reaction was always, this needs to exist.
Yeah.
And just feeling that and then channeling what was a lot of heartbreak, anger, stress from my situation, and being angry about that, and why, how could this possibly be how the world still is functioning.
Yeah.
That anger could have just drowned me, and I would have carried that into the next position of even as I was interviewing, I was always skeptical of like, well, how is this going to go badly? And how could I not judge that I was getting into these bad situations? the last time. So a lot of it created a lot of self-doubt.
Mhm.
Uh, but then as I found myself thinking more and more about the idea for Mother Cover and starting to kind of like put together a little bit of what if plans and maybe this and maybe it might work like that, I just felt my energy shift. And I just felt like this is something good that can come out of this. And now I've never worked harder in my life, and that wasn't what I thought was going to be. Like, and I thought maybe I'll just get into fractional work and I'll be able to create myself some flexibility while I have a young daughter now. But that flexibility is there, so I do enjoy that I'm able to set those boundaries of I pick her up from daycare at 4:30 and until she goes to bed at 7:30, I really try to protect that time for her. But then I'm back online usually in the evenings and working on the business and everything that we've got going. And I'm gonna ride that energy. Well, I haven't. I know it's all seasons and it'll be different in the next season. But right now, I'm just really motivated by our mission, by the positivity that I feel like that we're building, and by the conversations that I've been able to have with women like yourself that I wouldn't have met if I hadn't have started this. And yeah, like I said, I'm riding that right now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that you are because when I think about, certainly if, I think about like I'm older enough than you. I don't know, probably a different generation by the numbers or letters or whatever they are. But I think about my mother's generation. I think about my experience. I think about your experience. You and I both have daughters now. Mine is, 16, almost 16. Yours is much younger. So, but I wonder what their experience will be like and what their generations will normalize and not normalize. So I'm very interested to see that. Um,
Yeah.
Hopefully mother cover will become something that is not uh that is something that just becomes the norm. It just becomes the norm. Like, yes, somebody's stepping out, they're making a change, they're having a child, they're adopting a child, there's a change in their family situation that they need to see to. It could be with regard to their parents, and they need to step out for a little while, and the cover becomes something that is just absolutely the norm. And
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, I would love to see that by the time it gets to, if not my daughter's generation, then your daughter's generation.
I absolutely have that same vision, and that this isn't a gendered issue. Yes, right now the majority of caregivers are women, but we all have important things in our lives. So whether we're caring for aging parents, whether it is expanding our families, whether it's taking care of a sick loved one, or our own mental health, or happy things like wanting to take sabbaticals, because we don't
Yeah.
all want to wait for retirement to be able to live our lives because we're not all guaranteed that we'll be healthy in our retirement. So I think that is also something that the next generation is really pushing of like, I'm not going to kill myself for my
Yeah.
career. I'm not going to wait to live my life until I'm 65. I want something different. And I think companies and leaders need to start adapting to that and realizing that it's not necessarily, it's not expensive, it's not
Yeah.
even revolutionary. It's humans stepping in for other humans and thinking about workforces differently than we had in the 1950s. That doesn't work for the
And
majority of
70s
individuals.
and
Yes.
2000s. It's common sense. It's just common sense. And
Yeah.
it's also I mean, for the people who are on my team are also people who have been in my field. Again, I'm very focused, so strictly in the field of legal marketing. And they have stepped away from their careers because they wanted to raise families. They didn't want to be working on someone else's schedule. But they still have so much to give and so much, so many ways to participate and to have the opportunity to do that on a schedule that works for them, to do interesting work, needed work, valuable work
Mhm.
for our clients, but on a schedule that works for them is, um, to me, it benefits the entire workforce because then you still have the benefit of long experience and wisdom and people who are, still productive and feeling like they're contributing and wanting to contribute.
Especially as the headlines in recent weeks are the exodus of senior leader women from the workforce to be like, something's got to give. And whether it's women that now are starting their own businesses or going into this type of fractional work, how do we not lose that talent? How do we build work structures differently?
Yeah, yeah. So I have one last question for you, and then again, it's about your journey. So what unexpected lessons or rewards? I can guess the rewards. I'm more interested in the lessons actually. What unexpected lessons have come around from you really going around your own ladder, quite frankly, building your own ladder and doing whatever you want to with it, than following the traditional one and having gotten, you could have just gotten another job and continued that way.
I think the biggest lesson that my husband imparted on me when I first made the leap to start Mother Cover was that feeling that being in-house meant security. And then he said it probably a lot more sweetly, but he was like, "Dear, look objectively on the path that you've just gone through. You've gone through a layoff, you've been fired. You didn't have security
Yeah.
the way that you thought you would. So betting on yourself is your security. And that's been true. I can't now imagine doing anything different than Mother Cover, so it has to be successful. Um, no
Yeah.
pressure. Building in public is something that's important to me that I hadn't previously done a lot of putting things out into the world about myself personally, about what I'm creating. So that's been a new muscle that I've been building, even being on a podcast like this and talking about my story. But and then the other, I think, is just what a lot of entrepreneurs experience is you're only accountable to yourself. So you better make sure that you have the systems and structures in place because nobody's going to be on you for deadlines or keeping things moving forward. So I was a hyper organized person before. It's reached a new level now, and then you add parenthood on top of that. I have reached new levels of productivity, I think, but holding myself accountable is definitely challenging but necessary.
Yes, absolutely. It is I mean, I was a lifelong employee and then I launched my business when I was 50. And it's an entirely different ride. But like you, I can't imagine doing something differently now.
Yeah.
I feel like I've discovered so much about myself through the process of starting and evolving and running this business that I wouldn't trade for anything really.
Yeah. And I feel it's kind of opposite to that sentiment that says, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Do what you love and you will work every moment of your life, but it'll feel different.
It does, yeah. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I so appreciate it. I am absolutely reserving the right to check back in with you in like another year to see how
Me
things
too.
are going because I'm
Yes.
very interested in this, in the path and in the service that you've created.
I really thank you for the opportunity to share about my story and about Mother Cover. And it was lovely to be able to connect with you. And I hope we continue to be connected.
Yes. Oh, and actually, I do want to make that point. I'll put your website in the show notes, but if companies want to connect with you, they can do so on your website, and potential leave partners can also go to your website and connect with you there.
Yes, absolutely. So it's mothercoveragency.com and you can find paths to both and then reach out to me on LinkedIn as well too. Happy to connect there with the broader community.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that is it for this episode of Around the Ladder. Remember, there is no one right way up. So take your detours, make your moves, and keep carving your own path. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or a colleague who is on their own unconventional journey, or share it with a friend who is going out on maternity leave, or with a company that you know be doing potentially a better job at this. So see you next time. Thank you.